Hey there, purpose-driven therapist. Have you ever wondered why therapists can be so nasty, mean, and ugly toward one another, particularly when talking about money and fees? Let me tell you something that happened. Actually, several times. I can't tell you all the stories, but here's one or two. Over the course of my journey as a private pay therapist, there are times when I seek out support from peers and colleagues across the country for questions and advice about fee setting and how to structure my fees. Let me tell you, that's a bad idea because really, we should be getting legal counsel from our attorneys and accountants. But you know how we do it as therapists. We trust one another. We have our communities. I have one locally I'm a part of here in California, where I live in the San Joaquin Valley. I am actually a moderator in the private pay practitioners Facebook group. And I'm part of other Facebook communities. And there's been times when I would go in there and I would celebrate a huge win for my clients and my business. What I mean is I've increased my fees significantly while being in private practice. But there's always a but. When the fees from a therapist perspective, those who operate from a place of fear, scarcity, and poverty, when I go in there and I announce that a client just enrolled in an $8,000 package, putting down a $4,000 deposit and making follow-up payments for it at the time was an 18-session package, you wouldn't believe I've been called unethical. I've been called grossly unethical, a salesperson first, not a therapist. And now as a moderator, recently, I was moderating in the private pay practitioners Facebook group, and somebody posted a comment in there. She was so excited that she had increased her fee to $400. You wouldn't believe, or maybe you would, the response that she got. Some colleagues shamed her, made it clear that she was being unethical, that she shouldn't be doing what she's doing. And there's been times when administrators have really had to question whether or not to allow these posts. My name is Jamal Jones. I help private pay therapists create intensive and therapy packages that allow you to provide your clients a higher standard of care while charging premium rates, setting your prices based upon the value you bring to the marketplace and the impact you have on clients' lives. And today, we are talking about why undercharging for your services as a private pay practitioner is unethical. That's right. I'm going to repeat that in case you missed it. If you are a private pay therapist, LCSW, licensed professional counselor, licensed marriage therapist, clinical psychologist, whatever your licensure, wherever you are in the country, whatever your boards is here in California, I'm under the California Board of Behavioral Sciences. If you're watching this video and you're private pay and you're wondering about what's ethical when it comes to fee setting, for you to undercharge for your services as a private pay practitioner is unethical. And today, we're going to tell you why. All right, 3 reasons why it is unethical for you as a private pay therapist to undercharge for your services. Reason number 1, undercharging can lead to the perception that therapy is less valuable. Let me tell you a story about a man who's actually a man of faith, a professing Christian, as I myself, my niche in the marketplace is I am a Christian therapist. So my dream clients seek me out when they want a provider who in their mind is like-minded. One of these clients was having a really difficult time in his marriage. He had been married for several years. They had their first son already under the age of 5, and his wife was expecting. Now, you know how it is when you're married and you have a family and you're a professional. Life is stressful. It's really overwhelming. And so for this particular person, he hit a really hard spot. So hard that he had a heated exchange with his beloved bride that raised his and her concerns enough that they agreed that he should enroll in professional services and find a therapist. What I discovered after he enrolled in working with me, he actually confided in me something that you would appreciate. Because this shows what we do every single day as mental health care providers when it comes to suicide prevention and intervention. Let me ask you this. Did you know that on some life insurance policies, if you had that policy for a minimum of 2 years and you have an unexpected death, you can cash out on that policy and your family would be okay? This client I'm telling you about, he was doing research on his policy. Think about that. Christian, man of faith, married, young child, wife is expecting any day for their second child. Had a heated argument, and he was thinking to himself that his wife and family could potentially be better off without him. What is the value that you place on a person living in alignment with their faith or their belief system? What is the value that you place on someone who's married showing up for their partner or their spouse? Knowing what you know about fatherlessness in our society, what value do you place on a man showing up as a father for his children? And what about the impact this one person has on his people that he's called to serve in his professional life, his extended family, and others in his sphere of influence? When this client decided to take the courageous step to get professional help, his life was on the line. So when he contacted my practice and went through the intake process, let's be clear, just like you, I have informed consent. Just like you, I provide a good faith estimate in the form of a proposal. Just like you, I provide every client with clear practice policies so that they can understand the expectations and the risk of participating in therapy. Because you and I both know that we can't always guarantee certain results. But when the right client with the right problem shows up at the right time and they're motivated and ready, you and I have both seen so much transformation happen. Now, along those same lines, when it comes to the financial aspect of being a premium power play provider, I disclosed to him clearly, both in writing and verbally, that at the time we were offering a 15-session package valued at $6,000. In addition to those sessions, this client was told that he would receive support by phone, text, and email. No confusion, no manipulation. Now, when people are investing at this level in their healing, in their transformation, they deserve to take whatever time they need to move things around financially. We do it all the time. And so this client actually requested a payment plan. And so we offered him one. For some reason, when this client saw the invoice for the package, valued at $6,000. Even though we had agreed to the payment plan, guess what he did? He made the decision to invest in his personal transformation, to invest in him living, to invest in him being there for his wife and his 2 sons at the level at which he expects results. And he actually paid $6,000 up front. It was legal. It was ethical. And he did it voluntarily. What about you? We know that you have similar stories on your caseload. What value do you place on the value you bring to the marketplace and the transformation you're bringing to people's lives when it comes to things like suicide prevention and intervention, complicated grief, complex trauma, and all the other psychosocial stressors and diagnoses that people deal with? And they're coming to you to facilitate and help them with their transformation. So what I believe as a licensed marriage family therapist here in the state of California, where I operate under the California Board of Behavioral Sciences, it is unethical to not give that person the opportunity to invest at a high level when they have the resources. Because many people assume that because by nature of our industry, many of us work in community mental health, school-based settings, and many of our organizations that we work for, some being nonprofits, we actually serve the underprivileged and people from different socioeconomic levels and statuses. Let me ask you this. What about the regular, hardworking people who are making decisions about going to the World Series or the Super Bowl, or having extravagant birthday parties and vacations? Every day, people are making decisions about their priorities and where they want to spend their money and what they value. So when you as a therapist are literally saving lives, healing generations, making the world a better and a safer place, when you undercharge, you are decreasing the perceived value and the real value you offer to the marketplace and the changed lives on your caseload. The second reason why it is unethical for you as a private pay therapist to undercharge for your services is it causes you a major financial strain, resulting in you actually deciding to work with a greater number of clients than you can ethically handle. You know what I'm talking about. How many times have you had on your weekly schedule between 20 and 35 clients scheduled, and you find yourself going in back-to-back, then a lunch break, back-to-back sessions? That's 6. And for those of you who actually get beyond 6 in a day and get 7 or 8, you skip lunch and you might have a snack for dinner. And while you're in these sessions, where's your mind at? Let's be honest. Let's have some locker room talk or some dinner table talk, some family talk amongst us as providers. I know because I've done it too. There are times when I was undercharging, when I was in session, serving my beloved client or couple or family, and I was stressing about money, thinking about money. I'm on one client, for example, that this is a client where at the time, my fee was $250 per session. This client was paying $175 per session, which was my premium sliding scale at the time. And I'll be honest with you, there were times in session where he was telling me about golfing on a regular basis, he's traveling the country, he's dating, and dates cost money and all these things. He tells him about his family of origin and his background. And I had enough clinical information to know that if this client didn't have the resources himself to pay my full fee of $250, he had access to credit. He had access to people who would help him pay the full fee if he valued it the way I valued it. And so as a provider, I admit to you, there were times I had some resentment toward him because he wasn't paying my full fee. What about you? How often do you find yourself in session trying to get to the bathroom, dealing with late cancellations and no-shows? And you know, when clients late cancel and no-show, what about your business? They may be sick. They may have called into work. Life happens. We understand that. Do your bills stop coming? Do you still have a mortgage payment? Do you still got a cell phone bill? Do you still have children to take care of? And so when you undercharge for your services, you're actually self-sabotaging your self-care, self-sabotaging your client care, self-sabotaging the health and sustainability of your business. Think about it. The next time you find yourself looking at a comment in a Facebook group, or if you have the courage to post a premium fee that you charge in a Facebook group to see what happens, ignore the distractions. Don't mind the noise. It's out of alignment. It's incongruent. It is unethical to devalue your service as a mental health care provider. It is unethical for you to work with more clients than you have the bandwidth or capacity to handle at any given point in time over the course of your week, your month, your year. The third reason why it is unethical for you as a private pay therapist to undercharge for your services is there are some clients on your caseload who require a higher level of support. I remember when I worked in community mental health, and there was a shift in the industry where the company that I worked for had a contract to provide services to foster youth. And we had a contract with the Department of Social Services. And some of these high-risk children and their families needed what was called intensive care coordination. Intensive care coordination is when the presenting problems, the social, psychological stressors they're dealing with, the lack of support system, the high-risk behaviors, the risk of suicidality, the risk of homicidality, the risk of violence on the school campus. These adolescents, these youth, they needed not just a therapy session, but a therapy intensive, where I would meet with them sometimes at their homes on the school campus for longer than 60 minutes. And we had to be creative in how we documented it properly and ethically. And sometimes it required not just the session with the client, but also a collateral or a psychoeducational conversation with the caregivers and the school personnel. What happens when you transition to private practice? And now you have your overhead, and you're private pay. Now as private pay, you are now fully responsible for your marketing, your advertising, your taxes, your office space, your overhead. There's ongoing investments that you are making to run your business. And the reality is, when your clients come to you saying to you that they're not sleeping right now, or they're feeling sad, or they're grieving, or they're depressed. Clinically, you know that the presenting problem is not always the main problem. And once they come on your caseload, they need a higher level of care. So if the government has a system in place, a process in place for community-based mental health care clinicians to capture that time by billing at a higher rate for intensive care coordination, what about you in private practice? What's your plan? When you find yourself, you know how we do, right? Remember you were on insurance and the insurance company will only bill to a certain number of minutes and you would voluntarily choose to exceed those minutes because you were doing whatever it took to help that client for that session. Well, what do you do when you find yourself having these 2-hour intensives? When a client actually needs a 4-hour intensive? When a client is texting you between sessions? Or they need a support phone call? Many of these clients, they need a high level of support. And when you undercharge, you're not as available to them. You're not as accessible to them. And that is not a good standard of care to operate from. My name is Jamal Jones. I help private pay therapists create intensive multi-session therapy packages that deliver high quality support to their dream clients. By charging premium rates based on the value that you bring to the marketplace, you can focus on facilitating and supporting your client's transformation. Here's what they don't teach us in graduate school. They don't educate us on how to properly select our business model. If you're here and you're private pay, you have entered a whole new world of possibilities of what you can accomplish when it comes to your impact and your income in the marketplace. We have choices to make. One of those is we can take our license and we can work as a W-2 employee for an agency, for-profit or nonprofit. Another option is in private practice, we can work for a tech company. As a matter of fact, when I launched my practice following an unexpected termination, that was rock bottom for me. I was 38 years old. I was a husband of 4 years. We had a 3-year-old daughter, and I was the breadwinner. I was working at the local county jail, required to see 16 clients in a day. Document it all. That's more than 90 sessions in a week, or rather, let's say 90 contacts in a week. I was an hourly employee and I was working lots of overtime over an extended period of time. One day, I went to go work with some severely mentally ill. I did a group that I did multiple times a week. It was intense. I went back to the office. I had an exchange with a colleague, had a nervous breakdown. Next thing you know, I was on the floor crying and wailing like a big baby because I had a nervous breakdown. Next thing you know, I was placed on paid administrative leave. And initially it felt great. It was nice to actually be at home with my wife, our 3-year-old daughter. And I remember clearly telling my wife, honey, we're gonna be okay. I had a nervous breakdown. I'm on paid administrative leave, but they're gonna call me back and maybe they're gonna write me up and put me on a correctional action plan. So I thought. What actually happened was HR called me, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Jamal, we are not going to be asking you back. I couldn't believe it. I was let go. And all I could do was ask myself, what in the world was I going to do now? That's when I decided that if God would allow me to, I would finally bet on myself and launch my private practice. And the first thing I did was partner with a tech company, one of the largest venture capitalist companies in the US. And initially, it was a good arrangement. I began seeing clients online. This company took care of the marketing, the advertising, the referrals. My caseload grew fast. But this is a big but. The problem was this. If I saw a client or a couple for a full 50-minute session, I got paid $25 for that session. Now, you don't have to be a mathematician or an accountant to figure that out. That's just not sustainable. So eventually, I was fortunate to leave that tech company, and some clients converted to private pay with me. By God's grace, one of the things I've always done while in private practice is hire coaches. And I've been so fortunate to be a part of several different group coaching programs and masterminds. One of which was a group coaching program where for the first time in my life, I was able to do some deep internal work and look at my relationship with money and to discover my money origin story. For me, as the youngest of 5 kids, growing up in East Oakland, the son of a pastor and a devout woman of faith, the lessons I learned about money was piety is righteousness. Or if you want to be a good person or in alignment with God or live out your Christian value system, it's best that you live sacrificially and have a low standard of living. Perhaps be a missionary because this is honoring to God. And I remember going to college, my dad and mom were very clear to me. They said, Jamal, we do not want you getting involved in what's called this prosperity gospel. The prosperity gospel is this belief system that because you're a Christian, you're destined to be rich and to always be healthy and always be wealthy. There is some truth in both on the continuum. There are some people who may have a lower standard of living and they're able to be a missionary and that's their value system. That's what they want to do. To an extreme, what I call it is the poverty gospel. And that was where I lived naturally, was the poverty gospel. And because of my parents' influence in my life, I really wanted to stay away from that prosperity gospel. Well, let me ask you this if you're a person of faith. What about biblical stewardship? What about the calling to take all of your time, energy, background, education, training, particularly you as a licensed mental health care provider? Not only have you been fortunate to acquire your high school diploma and an undergraduate degree, but you have a master's degree. And to get licensed, I know here in California, I was required to get more than 3,000 clinically supervised hours. And we had to pass the law and ethics exam in a difficult clinical vignette. I graduated with my master's degree in 2012 and got licensed 5 years later, working with individuals, couples, families. So this coaching program for me was transformational. For 12 months, I immersed myself in a community with other mental health care providers under the guidance and leadership of a trained mental health care professional. And I developed a healthier relationship with money. And let me tell you, we all have issues around money. My story was a story of poverty, and scarcity and fear. And I've discovered that's the DNA of the mental health industry. When I decided to come into mental health, I decided to come into mental health because I had left my full-time ministry that was fully funded with a faith-based organization known as the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA. So yeah, when I enrolled in graduate school, I did have an expectation that once I got my degree, I would get paid well and make an honest living and support a family. Well, just like you, I heard people tell me, you don't go into social services to make money. In essence, it's a vow to poverty. And so when I finished this coaching program, I actually increased my hourly rate from $150 to $250, which at the time was substantial. But when I finished this program, I want to continue improving my relationship with money. I want to continue growing my business and positioning myself to have more time, energy, and capacity to work with my dream clients. And so here's what happened next. While in this mastermind, my belief system about what God can do and my belief in the work that I do when it comes to suicide prevention and intervention and complicated grief and complex trauma and marriage counseling and couples counseling and family counseling and helping people who go on paid leave from work return back to work to increase their productivity and continue to provide for their families. When I began to focus on the value of the work that I bring to the marketplace and the transformational impact I see in my clients' lives, that's when I began offering intensive and multi-session therapy packages. At one point in time, I had an offer that was valued at $20,000. And that's when I actually began to attract some couples who were willing to invest, or at least consider investing, as much as $10,000 in their marriage. What value do you place on marriage? What value do you place on having a covenant in marriage? If there's no domestic violence happening, or no extreme drug abuse happening, and it's two people who are married and there's no infidelity, and they're just in a really hard spot and they generally want to stay together, and they come to you to ask for help in that process, what value do you place on helping them stay together for the next 10, 15, 20 years? When I began thinking about the value of this work that we do here in mental health, my prices skyrocketed. And that's when colleagues and peers in the industry began to scrutinize me and call me grossly unethical and tell me I was a salesperson and things of that nature. But I want you to know that my clients, they love it. They love the opportunity to invest in their personal growth and development, to invest in having healthier and more positive relationships, the opportunity to wake up each day and have a greater sense of purpose and passion for their life, knowing they have somebody in their corner who's praying for them and caring for them. Because part of my niche as a faith-based provider, prayer is a clinical intervention. Appropriate use of the Bible is a clinical intervention for the right client or the right couple at the right time. And so if you're here today and you are struggling financially as a private pay practitioner, and just like me, you're trying to figure this thing out, like how do you run your business and take care of your clients? What's the best business model? The best business model is to offer therapy intensives and multi-session packages at premium rates. Now, it does take some work because it means that you're responsible for your marketing and your advertising and your sales. A word about sales. Most of us therapists and mental health care providers, we are purpose-driven. And I know that there's a stigma with sales. Many of us think of the example of walking on a car lot and there goes a dirty car salesman. Many of us have had several bad experiences where we've been sold something and then we have buyer's remorse. And the story's going on and on. Well, what I've discovered as I've been interacting with not just therapists, but networking with other purpose-driven entrepreneurs across the country and actually investing in one-on-one sales training myself and reading books and doing research, I've discovered that sales is an act of love from a place of service. And that's totally in alignment with my faith because my ethos is to love God with all my heart, all my mind, all my soul, all my strength, and to love my neighbor as myself. And that includes my clients on my caseload and anyone in my sphere of influence. So when I am offering these premium intensives and multi-session packages, it's not from a place of deceit, being malicious. It's from a place of genuine love and serving them at a higher standard of care. Today, we talked about 3 reasons why it is unethical for you as a private pay therapist to undercharge for your services. Number 1, when you undercharge for your services and your products, it decreases the perceived value and the real value that you bring to the marketplace and to your clients. Reason number 2, when you undercharge for your products and services, you actually create a major financial strain on yourself that causes you to now make a decision to, do you want to take on a higher volume of clients that ethically you really don't have the bandwidth or capacity to handle? And reason number 3, the reality is many clients, they do need a higher level of support. And when you undercharge, you're simply not as available or accessible or as present with them as you could be. Take a moment and imagine your life. See yourself operating as a premium private pay therapist, offering intensive and multi-session packages where clients are investing thousands of dollars in their transformation through you. Imagine how differently you show up for your self-care, your medical appointments, your exercise routine, your diet, your health, your nutrition. If you're single and dating, time to actually be present with the person that you're dating or spending time with without being so stressed about documentation and being too tired to actually be present. If you're married, the opportunity to actually be present with your spouse or your partner. And if you're a parent with 1 or multiple kids, you know that your kids deserve your best. Imagine having time for vacation. When you're in private practice, that's completely on you. What are you going to do with your 401k? Imagine having a salary, 401k, vacation time freedom, and financial freedom. When you decided to become a private pay therapist, your income, revenue, sales, and profits became limitless. Because prior to it, when you were on insurance companies or with a tech company, you were limited. So you possess a great superpower within yourself. Should you decide to do the mindset work and the money work, and you have the courage to become a premium private pay therapist offering intensive and multi-session therapy packages. It's a game changer. It's life-changing, and it will help you have a sustainable life and business. And you'll be amazed at how you show up for your life with more purpose, passion, and conviction.